I'm the Red Lady, and in this episode of Exploring Castles, I will be taking you on a tour of Castell Coch. I've also put some timestamps in the description box for your convenience. So this castle is a classic South Wales Valleys landmark. If you are travelling down the A470, you will see this castle perched up in the hillside with its fairytale Gothic towers peeking out from the woodland. So the towers of this castle are irregularly spaced and of varying heights, and that's what gives it that fairy tale look. So you could totally imagine Sleeping Beauty lying in a deep sleep in one of these towers. But before I take you through the exquisite rooms of this castle, let's quickly run through the history of the Castle Coch, or the Red Castle, and why it was built and who built it. Don't forget there are timestamps in the description box. So even though Castell Coch, as it is now, was rebuilt during the Victorian era, its origins stem from the medieval era, where its strategic location was fitting for a military stronghold. So it may be that the first stone defences of Castell Coch were built by Ifor ap Meirig, otherwise known as Ifor Bach, of the local native ruling Welsh dynasty of Sengennydd, during the struggles between the native Welsh and the non-native overlords. So at some point, local Lord Richard de Clare gained control of this stronghold that was then passed down to his son Earl Gilbert de Clare, or Red Gilbert as he was known because of his red hair and fiery temper. Now, Gilbert de Clare was responsible for the building of Caerphilly Castle, which is the largest castle in Wales and the second largest in Britain, second only to Windsor Castle. So I have already made a video tour of Caerphilly Castle if you're interested to see that. The link is in the description box below, so do check that out because that castle is enormous. So while Gilbert de Clare was building Caerphilly Castle, it is likely that he furthered the fortifications at Castell Coch as well, and its purpose was a military ancillary to Caerphilly Castle, but later was likely used as a comfortable hunting lodge. This medieval stronghold, it is suggested, may have been destroyed in the 14th century, most likely during the Welsh rebellions. There are no surviving written records of this, so nobody knows for sure. Neither are there any surviving records for its construction. So when this fortress was destroyed and brought to ruin, as you can see from this drawing, there really wasn't very much left of it at all. And so no one is absolutely certain of its full medieval form. In an 1850 survey of the castle site, engineer and pioneer scholar of British Castle Studies G.T. Clarke noted that the whole site was very thickly grown over with brushwood and weeds. So it was G.T. Clarke that published the first measured plan of the castle. And this is a watercolour by J.C. Ibbotson, painted in 1792. Now on to the restoration of the castle in the Victorian era. So about 20 years after Clarke's survey, the then owner of Castell Coch, the third Marquess of Bute, commissioned a programme of excavations at the castle. And just to give you some idea of the wealth of the third Marquess of Bute, we should consider the intermarriages of the family through the generations and also the Industrial Revolution. The first Marquess of Bute, John, and by the way they were all called John, was a Stewart of Royal Scottish lineage, and he married the extremely wealthy Charlotte Windsor, who was a co-heiress whose family held massive estates across South Wales. So after that, the Stewarts of Bute were propelled to the foremost rank of Welsh landowners. And a second marriage to the daughter of a wealthy banker also brought the Bute family even more wealth. The second Marquess of Bute, another John, a rather handsome fella, came into an even more handsome inheritance in 1814, and despite suffering with severe eyesight problems, he devoted his time to various business interests and managing his properties. And he also married twice, both times within the higher ranks of the aristocracy, to Lady Maria North and then Lady Sophia Hastings. And it was these marriages that sealed the deal, as it were, and the Bute family were now elevated to a position as the greatest landowners in the whole of the British Isles. Now this, coupled with the second Marquess of Bute's business interests, which included large-scale industrial projects, and he is known as the maker of modern Cardiff. So he shaped the urban settlements and set the pace for the exploitation of the South Wales coalfield. Bute Weststock in Cardiff, aptly named, would then ship the mineral wealth of Wales out to the rest of the world. Now, the second Marquess unexpectedly died at the age of 55. And his son, the third Marquess of Bute, inherited at the tender age of just 6 months old. And so the third Marquess of Bute, John Patrick Crichton Stewart, became the greatest landholding and property magnate of mid-19th century Britain. So that just gives you some idea of just how wealthy the third Marquess of Bute was. And it was the third Marquess with his passion for building and preservation and restoration of both Scottish and Welsh landmark monuments and buildings that was responsible for the reconstruction of Castell Coch and also Cardiff Castle, which I will be covering in another video very soon. The third Marquess of Bute had a vision to restore Castell Coch to its former glory, and it was the architect and designer and medieval scholar William Burgess who helped him achieve his dream. It was the enhancement of Cardiff Castle that came first, and shortly after the work began on the much smaller Castell Coch. So the rebuilding took place between 1875 and 1891. And although the construction work was finished by 1879, the architect William Burgess died suddenly in April of 1881, and the craftsmen who had access to Burgess's designs were left to complete the interior of Castell Coch. So even though Burgess died before completion, the result did indeed fulfil the wishes of the third Marquess of Bute, and the castle is known as a great Victorian triumph modelled on a medieval fantasy castle. So after Lord Bute's death, Lady Bute and her daughter retired here, and in 1950, the fifth Marquess of Bute handed Castell Coch over to the Ministry of Works for conservation and protection. So the castle is now cared for by Cadw, the Historic Environment Service of the Welsh Government. So let's explore Castell Coch. So this is the drawbridge and gatehouse. Above is a sculpture of the Madonna and Child by Cesaro Fucigna. Above the sculpture is the hoard or gallery that would be used by defenders of the castle to improve their line of fire and aim more directly at attackers. So the drawbridge and portcullis is in full working order, and here is the Winch room, which is upstairs in the gatehouse. Apologies as it is rather dark inside this room, but there is a fireplace in here to keep the guards warm in winter, and the mechanisms for raising the portcullis, if you can just about make that out. So after passing through the gatehouse, you will enter the courtyard. and there are arrows that point you in the general direction of the tour walk so that you can follow them and not miss any of the rooms. So following these arrows, we go up the steps, and the first port of call is the banqueting hall on the first floor gallery level. So inside the banqueting hall, on the walls, there are portraits of the Boot family ancestors and the family crest. And on the chimney breast is the statue of St. Lucius, carved by Thomas Nichols. And it is thought that Lucius was the first Christian king of Britain. The murals on the wall carry on with the St. Lucius theme and depict the martyrdom of St. Lucius and his sister Emerita. And this is the view out from one of the south windows in the banqueting hall, which looks out across the Taff Valley. Through the archway, we then enter the amazing drawing room. There are no words to describe how fabulous this room is. There is so much going on here. Directly above the fireplace, we have the 3 fates of Greek mythology designed by the architect William Burgess and again carved by Thomas Nichols. And there's a minstrel's gallery on the upper level there as well. The murals on the wall depict Aesop's fables with birds and butterflies, and there is the fable of the dog and his shadow, and the fox and the crow, and the hare and the tortoise. And the panelling holds 58 individual floral patterns on a gold background. The vaulted ceiling is decorated with birds and butterflies and lots of stars. So this castle has lots of winding staircases, and at the top of these stairs is Lord Boot's bedroom. There is a door there as well at the bottom of Lord Boot's bed that leads out onto a courtyard balcony. A decorated fireplace and chimney, a hip bath and a washstand. And just outside Lord Boot's bedroom is a medieval latrine. Here is Lady Boot's bedroom, another extraordinary room. There is a high domed ceiling depicting vegetation and animals. And on the chimney is a carving of the winged Psyche holding a heart-shaped shield with the arms of Lord and Lady Boot, and even the washstand basin is beautifully decorated with fish. This is the way to Lady Margaret's bedroom. All of the cream furniture in Lady Margaret's bedroom is original and would have been used by Lady Margaret. This is the kitchen. These are the serving hatches to the banqueting hall. And I'll leave you for a moment to take a look around the kitchen, which also gives information on the kind of food that would have been served here to the Boot family. There used to be a timber chapel, but it was removed in the 1890s. Nobody really knows why, but you can still see the 4 stone supports for it there on the well tower. The chapel was decorated with high quality stained glass depicting saints, apostles and angels that now currently resides in the vestibule in the well tower. So this is the room that would have led out to the chapel, and here beautifully displayed are the stained glass depictions of the saints and apostles and angels, including Saint Winifred, Saint Paul, Saint Andrew, Saint Columba, Saint John the Baptist, Saint Ninian, Saint David and Saint Dubricius, and also the archangels Uriel, Michael, Camuel, Gabriel and Jophiel. And there are 20 of them in all, and the windows are the result of the collaboration of William Burgess and the artist Horatio Lonsdale and Saunders & Co. glassmakers. This is a short walk around the top of the tower. And this is a walk around the upper level gallery and the view there outside the castle, and also on the other side into the courtyard. There are other rooms in the castle as well, and this room holds some information on the Castell Coch vineyard and the craftsmen involved with the restoration work, and also some information on the Penturch hunt. Down these steps we have the wine cellar, and according to the information in here, from 1877 to 1920, the south-facing slopes of Castell Coch were home to one of Lord Bute's 3 Welsh vineyards, and they were the only commercial British vineyards of the time, and were forerunners for the revival of Welsh and English vineyards after World War II. There is also a gift shop here and tea rooms. I didn't go in the tea rooms, but we did drive further on up the road through the thick woodland to a nearby pub and had lunch there instead. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of Castell Coch. I still have a lot more castles to get through, so please do subscribe, like and share, and check out the links in the description box, and please do check out my other playlists. I have plenty of other series I'm working on besides this Exploring Castles series. So take care, and I will see you soon.